So you picked up the Subjective Reality Commander Precon deck, and you're looking at making some changes. Give it your own personal spin, but you want to do it on the cheap. Well, I've got you covered, at least with some ideas on how I could make this work. This is following last year's series that I did with regards to the Precons from 2017. And let's jump in here. We're going to look at the cards that I am taking out. Besides, a few cards. I'm not going to go through all of them, but here they are kind of on screen now. Notable is, Verina the Lich Queen, or just Lich Queen. Now, yes, a lot of people might have bought this deck specifically to play with this card. I am going to have a separate video where I'm going to use her as the commander, and there's going to be budget changes for that. And kind of don't worry about it at this point. We're just going to use Aminatou as the commander, and we're going to base our deck on her abilities and how you can make changes there. So she's gone. As well as Army of the Damned. While it's a good card, we're not going to go that zombie route. We're going to go a different route. I've also removed 2 ninjas. We are going to keep the legendary ninjutsu enabler. It's just like, it's a good card regardless, so we'll keep the one new other commander worthy card in here. I will also do another video similar to what I'll be doing with the Lich Queen. I'm going to be doing one with, taking some of the cards out from the deck and then replacing Aminatou with Yuriko, and then go from there. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Additions, what are we looking at? So we're sticking with a $20 budget as per last year. It kind of worked really well. People really like the $20 budget, so we're going to stick with it. If you guys want to see a higher one, let me know in the comments below. If you don't want a budget limitation on it, again, let me know, and I can always look at making those videos. So the first thing that we're going to go and add straight away is Felidar Guardian. This card is just busted. Obviously, it got banned in Standard. It's a cool card. This combos well with Aminatou. It actually goes infinite, but there's not much you can actually do. Just bouncing your commander and Felidar Guardian and just going back and forth. When you start adding other things into the mix, there's definitely abilities or just avenues for you to really go wild with the other cards that are in the deck. Some of the stuff that's going to be in here will work well with Felidar Guardian. So that's one of the cards that, just being able to bounce stuff consistently is what we want here. So we're going to be taking advantage of Aminatou's +1 and -1 ability. And if need be, if somebody develops a good board presence that you kind of want to take, you can always go ahead and ultimate Aminatou. Speaking of cards that you absolutely have to put in this type of deck, Panharmonicon is a card that needs to be in this deck that essentially focuses around bouncing and getting stuff off and then back in and taking advantage of those enter the battlefield abilities. So being able to trigger stuff twice is huge. Again, with Felidar Guardian, there might be some shenanigans. So why not take full advantage of those shenanigans by doing it twice? And speaking of twice, we do want Oath of Teferi in here. Being able to activate your loyalty abilities twice a turn allows you, again, for even more shenanigans, whether you want to just keep Aminatou at the 3 loyalty count, so you +1 then -1 on the same turn, or maybe you want to get crazy and -1 both times, use that ability twice, and then just let stuff roll. This really helps out. Now, we're not really taking advantage of the fact that we don't have any other Planeswalkers in here. There is potential for Aminatou to be like a Super Friends deck, but obviously Planeswalkers are expensive, and the other pieces of the puzzle would be pretty expensive to just go all out. I recognize the potential is there, but for this video, we're just going to kind of, focus on the actual budget means. And by the way, you're going to be seeing numbers based on the card value flash on the screen. Those are in relation to the time of recording this video. So last year, what happened was when I did that recording, I put the price costs. There's a lot of stuff that jumped up in price. One of the things, like the Edgar Markov video that I had, kind of like bounced all over the place, and a bunch of cards spiked. So do keep that in mind when we are looking at values. And if you're looking at this deck, maybe, or this video, maybe in like January or February of like 2019, or even more in the future, first of all, hello from the past. Secondly, those prices will have changed. So it's important to really kind of do your due diligence. Don't be afraid of asking me in the video of any substitutes of cards that might have spiked. I'll certainly want to answer you and help you out along the path. Now, I did say we weren't going to put any other Planeswalkers in here, but I threw you a curveball, and we're going to be throwing in Sorin Grim Nemesis. So Sorin is a card that just fits well with Aminatou's ability. You know, putting a card from your hand on top of the library and then activating Soren's +1 allows you to put a bomb on top of the library and then have the players or your opponents lose a good chunk of life. So that's one way of doing it. And then there's also the ability to, you know, minus whatever amount of loyalty counters you want to deal damage to target creature or planeswalker and gaining life. There's also her, or his rather, Soren is a man, ability to just put out a bunch of black Vampire Knight creature tokens with lifelink onto the battlefield, so you're able to help build up some defenses for Aminatou. And when it comes to things that we should be putting into the deck, I think Sun Titan does belong. So the fact that it has a separate, or it has the same ability triggered based on entering the battlefield and attacking, but really it's just being able to pull stuff out of the graveyard that might have gone the way of the dinosaur, way of the dodo, so to speak, and bringing them back to life. And, you know, just using, you know, chump blockers you might have that are low costs, that have value when coming into the battlefield. You get to re-energize yourself with end of the battlefield trigger abilities that are from creatures that have died and served their purpose. Well, now they can have a second life, so to speak. And Oblivion Ring does fall into that. So it is a 3-mana permanent, so it will obviously take advantage of the fact that it can come out of the graveyard and do some service. There are also some blinking shenanigans that are involved with Oblivion Ring, being able to kind of exile things permanently, and if your groups do play with that loophole. So that's just one of those cards. It's a really good permanent, it's a really good enchantment, it's a really good card if we want to go that far, and it's cheap. So it fits in well, right? And Deadeye Navigator is another card that I like to insert into my blue decks for the blanket ability. Just soul bond it with a creature that has a really awesome enter the battlefield ability, or maybe a creature that leaves the battlefield and does something as well. That's always a possibility. I know that I like to soul bond Deadeye with Ashen Rider, another card here. Just, it's phenomenal. Every time it enters the battlefield, you exile a permanent, and when it dies, you get to exile a permanent again. So while you're not going to be getting the exit trigger for when you blink it, you are going to consistently be able to throw it on the battlefield, exile a permanent, and then go on with your life and just do destruction and mayhem. And not only that, it's a big body flyer, so it does provide some evasion, but it also provides some protection if you are going against a deck with a lot of flyers. And similar to Ashen Rider, there is Duplicant, which I like to add in a lot of my decks just for any time that we're able to play it, get it out there, and, you know, use the imprint ability to exile a creature. It's pretty straightforward, actually. And then we start getting into the last 3 cards we're going to be adding here. And Jace's Mindseeker and Chancellor of the Spires are 2 cards that fill a similar role. You're able to just cast stuff, right? It's either from your opponent's graveyard or it's from the opponent's deck itself. So having this recur a bunch of times will help. First of all, with Jace's Mindseeker, it's going to do 2 things. You're going to get to play an instant or sorcery card from among them without having to pay their mana cost. It's also going to mill a part of the deck. You're going to see with the 3rd card and final card that I mentioned that really plays in well. Whereas Chancellor of the Spire, anytime you put something or an opponent has something that's in the graveyard, you're able to then cast that instant or sorcery card without paying its mana cost. And if it's you just happen to have a really good card available to you, you're going to hopefully win the game off of that. But in terms of alternate win conditions, we're talking about Induced Amnesia. So again, it works well with Jace's Mindseeker, simply because you're going to be milling a bunch of cards. And if you're playing an opponent that has a draw heavy deck and they have a lot of cards in their hand, you're going to obviously mill them quicker than if you play an opponent with 1 or 2 cards in their hand. It's still, I think this is a really good card to put in this deck. It's cheap, it's fun, it's annoying. Sure, playing against a mill deck is sometimes a piss off, but it does provide us with a different avenue to win the game. I think, looking at Aminatou's ultimate ability, that might be a win condition. Then you have Induced Amnesia with another win condition, or maybe you just grab something really good with Jace's Mindseeker or Chancellor of the Spires. There's then just, kind of the attacking into the person with the creatures that you already have out there. There's a lot of different ways to go around this. Spell support that's already built into the deck really allows you to filter through the cards that you would get on top of the library, and you're able to then mess around with that and just do damage maybe over the long term, or if you are able to set up a really good board presence to go out there and trigger a bunch of abilities off each turn to eventually have your opponents either concede or be unable to keep up with the value you're generating with your own cards. So there you have it. That is the deck budget changes that I would suggest for Aminatou's commander abilities and just running Aminatou as your general, your commander, whatever you want to call it. Again, I will be doing another one with the other two major, actually there's 3 major legendary creatures that I want to build deck videos similar to this, so keep your eyes out for that. Let me know what you thought of the video or any suggestions you have. There's definitely a lot of cards that I didn't put in because of the constraint, whether they fell out of the range where I thought reasonable to pay for a card in this budget setting, or there just was too many cards for me to want to jam in. I'm thinking of cards like, Johnny Steadfast would have been great, a bit too expensive. We also had Temporal Mastery, Zur the Enchanter, we had Oromancer, Hannah Ship Navigator. There's a whole ton of cards that I wanted to put in there. So let me know in the comments below what you would have done. Until next time, good gaming.